sometimes you want to uncomplicate your live rig, and literally plugging something into an effects loop, you go, it's too much. I'd rather just focus on the pedal board and the amp. So there's that. That's one thing that happens. But what he's talking about is what we all do, where you're playing every end against the middle. And if the amp's totally clean, you don't get any nice natural compression and sustain. You want the amp to be slightly dirty so that it's not just transient, so it's not just boinky. But you don't want it to be too broken up to where you can't hit it with these pedals. And you just showed the ideal combination because it's just a little broken up. And then the pedal hits it, and it actually enhances the thing Carl's talking about hasn't happened yet. It hasn't decomposed yet. It hasn't collapsed. It hasn't gone too far yet. It's like everything, they're all playing together. And so you're constantly, if the guitar's too bright, you make the amp a little darker. If the pedal's too distorted, you make the amp a little cleaner. You see what I'm saying? You should constantly be playing everything against the middle to find the sweet spot. And you do find it. You do. And in my case, something that happens to me with electric guitar, and it always has, even when I was younger, there's a bit of fatigue that happens when you listen to a tone on the guitar after an hour. You walk back in the room after a break, and you go, oh, it needs this. And then maybe you come back the next day and it needs this. There's something about, always for me, the electric guitar that, 3 hours of electric guitar playing and you're not actually hearing the exact thing that you might hear the next morning. But that's just another aside. You had a simple question, but the point I want to make is that edge of breakup is perfect on an amp because you get that natural compression, but not too much edge of breakup so that you can hit it with these lovely pedals.
Well, I'll add on to that. I think it's not just the compression. I think it's also when you're getting a touch of distortion from the tubes, you're getting some harmonics, some overtones, and everything you put in front of that, whether it's your digital reverb, your digital delay, because all these pedals, I have 3 pedals on the floor here. One of them is truly digital. The other 2 are analog, but solid state. But you're adding some of that harmonic richness, color, saturation when you have the amp set a little dirty. For years, my only amp was a Port City Pearl, which is a beautiful amp, well made, but it is just clean. It does not break up at all. And once I started getting more experience in playing AC30s and amps that had some breakups and saturation, I realized, the Pearl is not what I want. The pedal platform thing is great, but I really think any kind of amp that'll let you drive it a little bit, or for the modeler players out there, picking a modeler or preset or profile that has that edge of breakup thing, and then putting your reverbs, your delays, your modulations in front of it, I think can help those things sound better. Better is subjective and totally depends on the situation, but that's my experience.
I'm going to take a poll. I also want to talk about playing in a minute too, not just gear, but I just want to, for the first question I'll ask is how many of you, well, I'll pose it 2 ways. How many of you play through amps in your daily life as opposed to modelers? Okay, and how many of you guys play through modelers in your daily life as opposed to amps? So amps win, seemed like,
get out.
Seemed like 70-30 in the realm of amps. And then, okay, how many of you can play loud in your environment through your amp, or do you use, okay, that's good. And then how many of you gonna play at conversational volumes with your amps? It's about 50-50. So there's a device I really love called the Power Station that is the best step down thing for it. So if you're interested in making your amp sound good at a lower volume, I recommend it. It's by Stevie Fryatt, the Fryatt Power Station. But Rhett and I are both amp fans, but you have to have a way of letting it breathe and opening it up. And in a lot of our homes and environments, we don't have that. I used to take an anvil case and put out in the garage with a 112 in it and record, and then I had this big, giant, expensive box. But the garage I had where I had the pedal workbench, I had a gentleman build me a box that would fit a 212, and it ended up costing like $6,000. Cost double, but I was in and I had to do it. I know what happened. Okay, this is a good story. So I lived in Sherman Oaks, and I did sessions at home constantly. And my next door neighbor was a sweet lady who taught music at UCLA. She was a harp player, sweet lady, elderly lady. And I had the band Puddle of Mud over one night. They brought Humvees, and we just had to crank everything. And I had a storage room in the bottom of my house that was adjacent to her house. And after that evening, she came over and said, you know, it's just too. So then I said, okay, finally I have to build it, because I got away with it forever. And you know what she was hearing, you know, the way it travels into another house. You cannot stop the bottom end from a guitar. It's like, she didn't mind for years until Puddle of Mud came over. Yeah, and so I said to Patty, my wife, we got to build the box in the garage. Okay, and so I hired this contractor, and he went crazy, and it was $6,000, and then eventually years later I just gave it to another musician because it weighed like 3,000 pounds, but it worked. So that's the length. I mean, people don't realize the lengths you had to go to. I had one friend, a producer, who had a big property in Northern Hills, and he literally had this outbuilding, this shed with rows of 412s. And it was far away enough from all the other properties that it could just throb, you know. But it really, you had to do that. And, you know, if you're able to do something like that, I recommend it. I did build a vault in my garage that I have now, and it's not soundproof because I didn't do it good enough. But my neighbors, you know, they live far enough away, and by the time it gets to the street, it's a small throb. So, but gosh, if you can stick with an amp, I don't know them. I love the modelers. I love what it's able to provide for people. It's like a nice tool. Artificial guitar can be on a record. Here's the thing: we've heard so much artificial guitar now on every YouTube. It's almost like, oh, that's a sound. That's okay. Yeah, right, yeah. I had a producer come over, yeah, you hold that, okay, because we need you. I had a producer come over, and he brought his Kemper because he wanted me to sound more modern.
Even in my situation at home, when I'm recording or making a video, usually I'm playing a real amp through an aux box.
It's a great solution.
Easy, and it patches right in my patch bay, and I'm good. In my studio, the YouTube studio, is a bedroom, and I have my half-finished recording studio in the basement, 2 floors below, and I have a literal, thankfully my wife was okay with us running a 100-foot speaker cable down the stairs into the basement. And, you know, occasionally I'll go, I'm gonna put a cab and some mics up. And every time I do that, an amp with a cabinet and a few good mics through some good mic preamps. In my live setup, that's why I always go with a fuzz, overdrive, and boost. Because with those 3 things, I can get any level and any style of gain that I would want or need for any of the stuff that I'm doing. Now, I haven't done what Tim has done, spent years working for artists and producers and things like that, but for the bands I play in, the music I make, with those 3 things, combining them in different ways, and with the volume knob on the guitar, like that gives me the entire spectrum of gain from, you know, super clean, which as a tangent, one of my favorite clean sounds is a fuzz on with the guitar volume as low as it'll go while still producing a voltage from the pickups. And stacking those other 2 pedals in there will give you everything. And then you throw an octave on top of that, you're having a hell of a time.
I'll say one more thing on that subject. I did a Rob Thomas record right out here with Matt Streletic producing, and Tom Bukovac came in and we got to do the record together. It's called Wildflower, I think. And Tom brought a Princeton and plugged it into one of Matt's 4x12s, and Tom brought his pedal board, and he got every great sound I've ever heard with his hands and his few guitars he brought and the pedal board through it was a silver-faced Princeton. And, you know, Beatles, Daniel Lanois, Hendrix, you know, country, everything, you know. So that's when I realized, oh, I actually started doing it after that, because I thought all I need is a pedal board and an amp. And that's, you know, pretty much it turned that way at a certain point. I used to bring a lot of gear into the studio, into sessions, and then at a certain point people wanted the guitar player to have a lot less.
I texted you one time, I don't know if you remember this, it was
I
probably
do,
5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was headed up to a session, and I felt bad because I packed 5 guitars for this session. I was like, I don't know, man, this seems like a lot. So I texted Tim, it's like, hey man, how many guitars do you bring to a session? And I'll never forget, you immediately responded, 18, 20, 25, depends on 40, depends on the session. Oh, I'm good, man. I'm all set.
At a certain point, when cartage was, people didn't want to pay for cartage. You know, when cartage was okay, it was part of a budget, you would, the truck would bring your gear, you could bring as much as you wanted. But then at a certain point, my session work became more just bring my own gear. And I went to soft cases because they would pack like sand in the backseat of the car. And when you have a sedan, you know, it's almost better than an SUV, a sedan, because you can pack literally in the back seat. If you just do it real tight like sardines, you can get like 12 to 18 guitars in the back seat.